Hey, good morning, everybody. You know, in response to um, basically what Believer, let me see if I get their name correct here. Believe It, I think is their name. Again, let me make sure I get their name correct. But, you know, I was reading some of the previous topics that people have talked about throughout the years, the past few years, and some of them, you know, one of the topics was where they reviewed the movie The Legend of the Parathosaur, so a movie I'm going to be getting through Netflix very soon, and DVD fabbing so I can own it. Um, but but here it is. The person is Believe It 1051 on the fan fiction site, and I'll provide a link for anybody that wants to know about this site down below about these forums. Um, but basically, it's a lot of pages full of topics and everything that people talk about. And Legend of the Prothethor basically was one, according to many of the people here, was one of the better Scooby-Doo animated direct-to-video films. And that basically this was also a huge, huge deal when it came to being Shaggy, Daphne supporters and shippers, if you know what I mean. Because from what they said, this was basically, it's almost like a majority of it, from what I understand, was Shaggy, Daphne. Now, not in the sense of now the saying now basically what they said was it wasn't in the romantical sense, but you can almost see it. You can almost sense that there was being that whoever wrote the script, basically, whoever wrote the script for the movie, showed favoritism and showed love, if you will, towards that pairing, and that is why you had Daphne always around with Shaggy. Now they did say you sort of had like a tiny bit of Fred Daphne in there, but not really, not very much at all. But it was mostly Shaggy and Daphne kind of hinted at and showcased, and they even mentioned that the movies that followed, like Music of the Vampire, had it, and like when the singing and the kind of like on top of the van and the kind of arm in arm with Scooby. But if you take Scooby out of the picture, like you can see with one of the videos here, that's the screenshot I got it from. Basically, it's just them, and you know, to me, ladies and gentlemen, and Believe It 1051, I think you would agree with this. It all depends on who the writer is for the stories. It can be it sometimes the Scooby Doo movies can always have the same writer that it's had for previous movies, and that's fine. And or it could have different writers. And again, it all depends on who writes the script. And if they decide, hey, we want to show some love towards the possibility of a Shaggy Daphne pairing, then let's do that. Let's do it. Let's go in that direction. And it's really cool and unique that they do that, because it at least showcases that they do show favoritism. Now, some people might say that with what happened with Mystery Inc. at the end of Mystery Inc. and with the trailer of the upcoming Scooby Doo movie, that it's kind of not. It's kind of a foregone conclusion that Daphne and Fred are going to be the item, are going to be the thing that WB is going to go with, and that Shaggy Daphne is now going to be just a dream. But it's like I said before, and I will say it again. Just because it doesn't seem like it's going to happen doesn't mean it won't, because it will. And I mentioned this in another video, and you guys could check that out as well. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, the point is, you know, we may not agree sometimes with how the movie is written or anything. You know, we may not agree with I have to get some water there. But again, like I said, we may not agree sometimes with how certain movies are written, or how certain scenes are written into the movie or something like that. But again, it all depends on who the writers are. And I know definitely right now, the way fans like you, loyal fans of the Scooby-Doo franchise, that see this, that see these hints, if you will, that acknowledge these hints, that say that, hey, all you have to do is look at, you know, certain films, or certain scenes and all that, you know, and you can find them. You can find these hints. You can find these indications. You know, for example, I think somebody used something. I don't know which one it is. I think Believe It pointed it out. Yeah, I think it was Believe It. Let me check the name here. Yeah, Believe It 1051. You pointed this out. You pointed out, and I quote, in the Scooby-Doo Scrappy-Doo episode called The Hairy Scare of the Devil Bear, it says, you point out, and I quote, Shaggy almost gets bear hugged, ha, get it, Scoob, for the last time, but the gang catches up and the devil bear runs away. They find Shaggy on the floor with his hands covering his eyes. Daphne shows concern for Shaggy and asks if he's okay. Shaggy says he thinks so, and she helps him up by lifting him from behind. And you basically mark where you can find that in the video, which would be at the 3 minutes, 23, almost 3.5 minute mark, basically 3 minutes and 29-second mark. And you say he lifts him up. So, yeah, and again, it's all about, you know, how a scene is written in there, by who the writer is, either it's for a movie or a show. And, you know, let's not deny the fact that some of the writers there that do the movie, that write the scripts and the stories, you know, for some of the Scooby-Doo animated films, if not for some of the episodes of maybe Mystery Incorporated and whatnot, and maybe even What's New Scooby-Doo and all that. Let's not forget this. Let's not forget this. Some of them could also be like a lot of the people at these forums, a lot of the majority of fans that are Shaggy, Daphne supporters and shippers. They could be the same way, but because they're working, you know, on the show, just like, say, somebody's working on a comic, it doesn't mean that they can use their job title as a writer to make their fantasy come true. They basically got to be unbiased. They got to do things whether they like it or not, or whether we like it or not. They got to do things that maybe deep down they feel is not going to be popular with the fans, but they know they have to basically do it because it's showcasing that they can be unbiased. So, Again, you know, it's all about who writes the show and who writes the script for the show, who writes the script for the movie, and all that. I mean, okay. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, let's take a look at get a little piece of paper away from the cat there. But again, let's take a look, and this is hard to believe as an example. Let's take a look at the Scooby-Doo live-action films from 2002. You know, whoever wrote the script for it decided, hey, let's pay a homage to, if you will, to the 83 to 86 series. Let's pay homage to that by having Daphne by basically having Daphne, Shaggy, and Scooby be the ones that first enter the castle or the mansion, if you will, at the amusement park, and then sort of be like the ones that survive the initial attack by the monsters, if you will. Sort of, like I say, sort of be the ones that survive the attack initially by the monsters. Of course, later on, Daphne gets captured, but you kind of get the idea of what I'm talking about. And again, if you don't think maybe somebody that worked on that movie and did that script didn't show some kind of favoritism towards Daphne and Shaggy, then I don't know who, and probably them as a pairing, then I don't know what. And then even, of course, with the second one, even though in the second live-action movie it was established you had that Daphne and that Fred as a pair, she was concerned sometimes for Shaggy. You could see it in some of the scenes. You know, even the scene where, you know, where Shaggy says when they're going up that elevator, it says, and Shaggy's like, you know, we're gonna die, and she's like, think positive, and he's like, we're gonna die quickly. You know, and who's showcased right there? You don't see Velma in the screen or anything, unless maybe if you watch it on HD or something. But mainly you see Daphne and Shaggy, and that's a live action film. But I know a lot of people won't count that, and I can understand it. But again, even with those live action films and with those scenes, the way they were written to be in there, you have to understand that it's not just coincidence that the writer probably had some favoritism, wanted to show some love to the fan base that supported that. And, you know, again, I know a lot of fans won't count the live action films, and I get that. I really do. I truly understand and get that. But even if you don't want to count them, you still have to count a lot of the other shows and movies, past and present. And to me, just for the fact that one movie, if not two, maybe more, showed a lot more subtle hints and subtleties, if you will, towards, you know, Shaggy Daphne pairing, then it's basically going to showcase to you down the line that it's going to happen. It's like I said before in a previous movie. I mean, not a previous movie, but a previous video where I talked about the movies. Basically, it's all about the fact that they're their own individual continuity. You know, not one of them, except for maybe except for maybe Zombie Island and maybe the sequel, Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed, only those movies, in a sense, acknowledged the past. And yeah, even Cyber Chase did the same thing. Cyber Chase, Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed, and Zombie Island are the only three that acknowledge the past. All the other movies that came between, a majority of the movies, I should say, that came between and after were more on their own. They were more of a continuity based, on a solo continuity base. In other words, they were their own continuity, within the film. They didn't continue on to the next film. They weren't acknowledged in the next film. They were their own movie. They were their own story. Self-contained, if you will. So that's why when people say, oh, well, if you look at the trailer for the next Scooby-Doo movie that's coming out in this year, we're pretty much screwed as far as Shaggy Daphne fans go. Here's the old saying, and I think a lot of people should understand this. You should never say never in entertainment. You should never say never in animation, because with the right opportunity, as I said before in a previous video or so, with the right opportunity, it can and will happen, and I believe it will. I truly do. I mean, you don't think the people at Warner Brothers that are working exclusively on the Scooby-Doo product, you don't think they realize, oh shoot, there's a fan base, there's a fan base, a huge fan base for Shaggy and Daphne. Maybe we should try that and see what happens. I mean, heck, you take a look at the merchandise sales for Scooby-Doo merchandise, and what is the one plushie besides Scooby and maybe Shaggy that gets sold the most? Daphne. That's right, Daphne. And sometimes you can find Daphne not just at the stores. You can actually find Daphne in those crane machines, right? Heck, I found my Daphne that I have in a crane machine. Yeah, I have a Daphne plush. And I found her in a crane machine. You don't believe me? I'll take a picture, and I'll provide a picture of that through DeviantArt so you guys can see it yourself. But I do have a Daphne plush. Go figure. But the point is, like I'm saying, you take a look at the merchandise sales, and the majority of merchandise that gets sold either involves Scooby and Shaggy, or Daphne. And that should, in a sense, give the WB reason enough to say, you know what? They're popular enough. People like these three enough. Maybe we should pair the two human characters together. But again, it's all depending on who the writers are and when the opportunity will present itself. And I believe the writers and the opportunity, what I'm trying to say is I believe the opportunity that will be presented to the correct writers will occur very soon. And I think it's going to happen sooner than we think. You may not say it will, but I think it will. Yeah, I really do. I really think it will, because again, like I said, it all depends on who the writers are. I mean, you take a look back in the early to mid 80s, the writers there, the ones that pitched the idea for, oh, let's bring Daphne back and make her part of the team for the all-new Scooby-Doo Scrappy-Doo show, a.k.a. New Scooby-Doo Mysteries, and then 13 Ghosts. The writers that pitched that, they pitched it because they wanted to try something new. They wanted to give the fan base something new, and they did. And again, all the subtle hints out there through all the shows, past and present, will indicate exactly what a lot of people are talking about. That there is a fan base. And that the right opportunity for that certain group of writers will present itself very soon. And don't be surprised down the line if a movie does come out, or even a show comes out, and it showcases just Daphne, Scooby, and Shaggy, and maybe, let's say, you want to add in a female dog in there to be the equivalent of Scooby. Maybe you can add in a revamped or retooled version of Nova, or you can add in Scooby-Doo if you want to, or whatever. But don't be surprised if that happens down the line very soon, because I believe it will. Again, like I said before, I understand why they're doing the whole Fred and Daphne thing. It's for a new generation. And I use plenty of examples in other videos to talk about that. But like I said, sooner or later, and I think it's going to be, I believe it's going to be a lot sooner than later, people at the WB working on the Scooby-Doo stuff, the shows and the movies, they're going to say, look, there's a lot of fans out there that support Shaggy and Daphne a little bit more so than they support Fred and Daphne. Let's test that out. Let's test the waters of Shaggy and Daphne and see where we go from there. Because I believe, just like everybody else has believes it to be true, that if they go in that direction, that's going to be like basically hitting the jackpot, like winning the lottery. That's going to like, basically, digging for oil and finding oil in areas you would not expect to find them and becoming rich from that. You kind of get the idea. So, to me, it's all about the writers. It's all about who write. It's the writers, and it's all about the writers. Shaggy and Daphne, the Shaggy-Daphne pairing, it's all about the writers who want to put Shaggy and Daphne together in the Scooby-Doo movies and shows. In the Scooby movies and shows. So, let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. Video responses are greatly appreciated. And I'll talk to y'all later.